This video is brought to you by TS4U IT Engineering Bootcamp.
Um, so like some of the question was asked, like the transit gateway, if you are familiar with. Then some of the question was what are the benefits of the ISC? What is the ISC? So how do you answer those questions? And yeah.
Right. Just to start again, the way for example, Shahid Bhai has created a lot of the videos on how to answer. The way he answered is very true to the nature of a real life interview. So, try to adhere to that format, because once you're in a real life interview, you understand why he answered the way he did. So trust that. Don't think it is too wordy or he's going on and on. No, it's very right. At first I used to think, oh, he's describing every little thing, or it sounds like it's only from his point of view. It should be. We're not here to recite a very perfect chat GPT or textbook answer. It has to sound like, it is conversational. So if it benefits us that he answered it from his first person perspective. So for every question I face, nothing, again, at first when you're in the interview process, it sounds very intimidating. It sounds like, oh my God, these questions are hard. But once you get comfortable, you start recognizing that they're not asking nothing too complicated, nothing too crazy. And typically they ask everything conversationally. For example, previously they would say, oh, we're transitioning into Terraform. How did you use it? You just tell them one example of how you use it. There was one answer. Shahid Bhai answered, but the question was, how did you first transition? And he talked about Terraform import. You see, the question was something else, but I used that as my example of how I worked with Terraform. And in all the other rounds, and in some way they asked me about Terraform, and I could recycle and reuse that same answer in different ways. No one's going to notice it, and at the same time, it's also realistic because since it's a real experience, of course I'm going to talk about the same experience a lot of the times, but just reword it correctly so that one answer helped me in every stage of the interview. And same way, they might ask little questions, and they're not trying to grill you. They might, for example, they ask me, oh, do you know what a transit gateway is, if you're familiar with it? Now, transit gateways, it might seem like an odd question, but I understood he's just trying to see if I really work with what I do, because transit gateways are pretty simple and pretty common thing we work with in AWS. So I don't think the person who's interviewing me is looking for some great long answer. He just wants to see if I can describe what it is and what part of a process it is, so he can be like, okay, this person actually does work with this properly. So for this one, I didn't even have a long answer. I just said, oh, yes, it's part of this part. It's part of this networking in the VPC, and, you set it up this way and it helps. That was enough for him. So I feel like a part of interviewing is also understanding the nature of questions. Don't get nervous with every question and think, now I have to give a long answer. After some time, you have to understand. And, that was just an in-between conversational question. If you spend too much time on it, then he would get nervous. The person interviewed is like, oh, why you're taking this too seriously? You take a different question too seriously. You don't take this too seriously. So a part of the interview is also understanding how to respond to each question. Then I was followed up with, IAC, and why IAC infrastructure as code, and what are the benefits. Again, they're not trying to grill me. They're just trying to see if I really understand what I'm working with, if I really understand why in the DevOps world infrastructure as code is helpful, and what parts of the process it actually makes efficient. Again, they're trying to see if you have the DevOps engineer in you. This kind of question, you don't get too nervous. You just say, okay, infrastructure as code is this. It helps with version control, and there's a lot of people can work on it together, and so on and so forth. You again casually and conversationally answer that kind of question. So so in the interview process, you also have to be able to detect if the first question is, tell me about Terraform. That is the kind of question I spend time on. I answer top to bottom elaborately. In between, they might ask me for small questions, again, quickly, to see if I'm really, if my actions match my words. They'll ask little questions like, oh, very casually, oh, like, transit gateway, have you used it? of course, it's a pretty normal part of it. So they just want to see. They ask you some very basic questions, but how comfortably and confidently you answer those is says. But a question like sharing an example of a work or a specific tool, you have to understand that means they want to hear every detail of how you worked with. Terraform question, they want to hear every detail I worked with. This is the key, one big tool. That's a general question. Word for word, those long questions you think Shahid Bhai answered for so long it doesn't make sense, it's for that reason. Little questions like, why do you think IAC helps, or what is transit gateway? You have to understand, okay, they're just testing me a little. I answer conversationally and confidently.
Yep, and then there is a trick in the interview we normally do. We ask a question, what it is? What is this? Actually, this is a trick question. We see, actually you are answering me the definition, or you're telling me your journey. If you tell your journey, that's correct. The moment you just give the definition, we already figured out. And we'll be asking a couple of questions more, and you are giving me the definition, we're basically done. So this is actually the tricks in the interview process. Anytime you go, we do this kind of question, because it's not my intention to remind you over and over, or tell me the example, or give me the example. You may not get all the interviewer like this. They just ask a general question. You want to know your story and the journey, as she just mentioned. Well, thank you.